Hey Techify fans, welcome back to another tutorial of Java Selenium series. In this tutorial number 8, we'll be more talking about OOPS concept. So what exactly is OOPS? It's an object-oriented programming sequence, right? And it consists of 6 different principles. First is class, object, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction, and inheritance. So whatever in my first lecture, in the just beginning of the series, in the first lecture, I told you guys like whatever language will be supporting these 6 principles at a time, then that language will be considered as an object-oriented programming language. Okay. So the first principle is class. So as you can see on my screen, let's quickly dive into what is class, then we'll move to the objects and then slowly with the other principles as well. Okay. Let's discuss what exactly is class. Now you have gone through all the 7 tutorials here. You must know what exactly is class. So the answer can be coming up from you, and most of you will be having different thought about class as well. So let me clarify. A class can be defined as a template or a blueprint, right? In a very simpler way. Okay, whenever you construct a new house or anything, you are going for to purchase a flat or something, any property, or even anything which requires a blueprint or a template. Okay, that template actually defines that this will be the whole structure, and inside that you have a different rooms of your particular house that can be denoted as a different objects, and each room has its own functionality, each room has its own presence and its own attributes and the functions, right? In the same way, class is defined. So class is a complete object, right? A complete, I can say, a complete template where which have a different behavior, which have a different states that describe that particular functions and states and everything of that particular object of its support, right? So a class is a blueprint from which an individual objects are created. Now we know what is a class. Class is a complete blueprint, right? Just for one more example, you are in the classroom, right? In your schools, you have plenty of kids sitting around in your classroom, and that whole class is act as a blueprint. Okay, it is a class where each kid or each student nearby you act as an object of the class, right? So let me define object like you myself. Okay, my name is Sumit. I am an object of that particular whole classroom, and my roll number is 21, suppose. So that roll number is a variable which I hold, and my functions are I can walk, I can sit, I can talk, I can teach. These are my methods, right? And there can be other variables like my name, my full name, my address, my phone number. These are the variables. So now you have a better clarity that class is a blueprint, and it has the multiple objects. It can have various objects, it can have various attributes, it can have various variables or methods aligned to it. Okay, so class is a template for an object, and object is a instance of a class. Now you get it? Okay, moving to the other part of it. So how class is defined? So class is declared by the class keyword itself. Okay. Now in Java, you can't have a class keyword with capital C. It should be small c. Okay. So class, then you have to give the class name, whatever the class name is, like suppose a demo, dummy class, or lecture one, lecture two, like that. Okay. And in that, you need to have the curly braces, which actually hold the complete block of the class. Okay, which defines this is the start of the class and this is the ending of the class. Okay, then in that you can have multiple variables, multiple objects, multiple methods defining that you can have. Okay, so class is a kind of a blueprint. Now if I talk more about like what are the instance variables, what are the methods. So class usually contains all the methods, instance variable. Class also have the main method, which which is required to call, which actually start up the program, right? So in the fourth point, you can see Java class does not need a main method till Java 1.6. We only specific one main if that class is the starting point of your program. But now we have multiple Java 8, Java 9. So with that particular, we require a JD, public static void main. Inside that, string arguments, an array of a string, right? So even without a main method, there is a possibility to start your code. I will give you a hint. Just refer to the static blocks. Okay. After that, Google what is static block. You will get to know how we can kickstart a complete class or kickstart the complete hierarchy without using a main method as well. That you can also. That's a hint. So now coming up to the other points, like how we define a class that you have already done in past 7 lectures. We have been creating multiple classes for if conditions, for loop, arrays, strings. Everywhere we have created classes, right? Now coming up to the second point of OOPS principle, what is object? Object is a instance of a class. Now many of you have a kind of a confusion. Okay, I'll let me jump to Eclipse. Okay, so this is the class which I created, class public demo. Okay, or if you want me to zoom in a little bit, let me do it. Do that. Let me zoom in a little bit. Just a second. Is it visible now? Yeah, it's visible and it's better. Okay, so this is my public class demo. Okay, and in a one Java file we can have only one public class. Okay, so public class demo. What exactly it is? Class is a keyword. Demo is the name of class. What is public? Public is a access modifier. Okay, public is a access modifier. So we can have different access modifiers like private. Okay, private is the access modifier. Then we can have protected. Protected is a access modifier. Then we can have default as well, which is by default. Even if you don't type it, it's by default actually. By default, if I leave it like that, it's another default access modifier. Then if I type public, it's a public access modifier. Okay. If I type protected, it's a protected access modifier. Okay. Create a new JUnit, JavaModel. Okay. So it's a protected. Now coming back to this, I own without going to test Java, I will make it as a public. Okay. So now guys, I say that this is my public class. Okay. And this is the permission or a syntax to declare a class. Okay. Now if I remove this and remove this as well. So this is the syntax for creating a class. Okay. Now what I need to do is the next step is we taught about objects. Okay. So do you think this is an object? Usually what we say, just declare an object by using the class name. Correct? You need to have the class name, space, object name. That's all. Do you think it's an object? This is the question for all whosoever is watching this particular video. Do you think it's an object? Answer is no. This is not an object. This is just a class variable which you have created right now. You have not created an object yet. This is just a kind of a reference variable, I would say, for a class. When you write this new keyword, now this is an object. New demo, create an object of a class. Okay, and this is an instance variable, or I will sorry, it's a reference variable, I will say, in a more simplified way. So this first term D is a reference variable and new demo is an object. So mark my words, guys. This is a very common question for all the Java like beginners. I usually ask them, and they get confused in this. The person who is not even sure what is demo D and what is new demo, his or her fundamental is not clear, which means that person won't last long in Java development, or either I will say in automation testing. If your fundamentals are not clear very well, then whatever language you pick up, whatever Java automation tool you pick up, you won't be able to last long in that particular field. So your fundamentals should be very crisp and clear. Okay. So now you got it. What is a reference variable? What is a object? Why we call it as an object? Because whenever I create a new demo, it create a memory block in the backend. It create a memory block for your class. So whatever I will do, int a, int b, whatever I'm doing, like string c. So these all must be holding any like 4 byte, right? It must be holding 4 bytes in Java, like, right? 4 byte, and this must be holding 8 bytes, right? So the total is 16 bytes. So this memory block will have the total length of 16 bytes in the backend whenever it is declared. So it will analyze the whole byte structure in the whole class. It will create a memory block, and it's a dynamic memory block. It will keep on increasing in case if there is any requirement I am creating furthermore. During the compile time, it create a memory block. Okay, now you got it. So you got the structure, like what is class, what is object. Okay. Now there is one more terminology. What is method? In other like I will say in other languages like C, C++, if you have studied any other methods like any other language, JavaScript or any other language which you have studied, you might have heard the term about functions or methods. Both are same. It's just about the language methodology, what we say, what we call it. So what is a method and why we create a method? Any idea? So suppose I have 3 students with me, okay, and or I need to check whether all the 3 students got pass in the exam or not. So what I need to do? Like suppose int for first student, int A is having 67 marks, right? Whereas my second student B is having 33 marks, and whereas my third student is having 89 marks. Okay. So now if I need to check uh like and like suppose if I need to check the marks whether those are greater than 33 or equal to 33 or not. Okay. Then I will type like this: if A is equal to is or is having greater than equal to 33, then I will say sys out pass. Okay. In the same way, let me just like this. What's wrong here? Is there any specific token which I left it? Demo. Hold on. System. This is the okay. Sorry, it's giving me an error because I have not created any public. Wait, my bad. Copy it. Everything. Int A. I've declared. Let me declare the int A over here. Okay. Then I create a B with 44. C with 20. Suppose. Now, suppose if I have to search for any of the that whether my student is passed. So what I need to do is I need to write this particular query 3 times, right? That pass. Again, I have to copy paste the same thing and do it for B. Again, and same thing, do it for C. So repetitive activity, right? Repetitive activity, which we have to go through, right? So what we can do is what what we can do over here is like we can create a kind of a, I would say we can create an object. Okay. So that object we can hold, which can hold the value, which can actually, well, let tries just a second. Okay, all these variables are non-static. Okay. Okay. So now, suppose if I have to make it to work, right? So technically, I need to have all these methods again and again. I need to call them again and again. Everything I have to do it repetitive activity, right? But what if I do like this? Int num like this, and uh, like this. And what if I pass this check result a? So see, okay. So over here we can write pass else fail. Okay. Now if I run it, see, it gave me two pass because my first two values were greater than 33. C is fail because it was less than 33. Okay. So in this case, what we did is we created a method. Okay. And why methods are good for us right now? Like if I say like we created a method, and method is a kind of it's a construct for grouping statements together to perform a function. Okay. So method can have the different return types as well. And suppose right now I don't have any return type because I have specified void. So there are multiple return types. Return types. So return types are nothing else but your data types only. Okay, whatever the data types you have. If you have to return an integer, just add int. If you have to return a string, add string. If you want to return a double, just add double. If you want to return a float value, return a float. If you want to add a boolean value, add a boolean. If you want to add a kind of a byte, add a byte. If you don't want to return anything, you just need to perform the function. It doesn't matter that what it's returning. It should not return null value. Then it should return a null value. Then it's a void. Okay, that's what we usually write, void. Okay, but what if I need to return a boolean? Boolean means true or false. Okay, so over here I need to define a boolean. If so, by boolean I can do like this as well. Instead of writing my statements over here, I will do like this. I will remove these two just for the clarity. Return true. Okay, and over here return false. Okay, so now what I did is I just created a method which will accept the parameter as integer value and will perform the function, but it will return a boolean value. Okay, and that boolean value will as an output for this. In a simplified way, if I have to write this, then it could have been written like this as well. In a very simplified way. Okay, where you need to define a boolean b or a value is equal to this, and then passing the value inside it. Either you can do it like this as well, but I was just trying to save the line of code. That's why I directly wrote it as check result bracket a inside it, because at the end it's going to return either true or false, and if it's true, it will go into this. If false, then it will go to this block. Okay, now if I run it, see, pass. So it worked. Okay, so method is basically a collection of multiple statements together which will help you to return something, or not to return something but to perform a specific operation. Okay, that's a method. So now you know how to declare a method or how to create a method, right? So method can be constructed with the different, like a different keywords together. First, your access modifier, then whether it's a static or a non-static. If it's a non-static, you don't have to write a static. Okay. But as I am calling it from a static block, that's why I have to write it in, because static block, there is a term called that a static method can only support a static variables and a static call to a static method. That's why I am making my check result as static. Okay. Then boolean is kind of a return type. Okay. It's a name of method and it's a parameterized method because it is accepting few values. If I don't want to accept any value and I'm not passing any value over here and directly I pass a, that will also work because it's a global variable. See, but it's very important to have kind of a value over here, because if you want to do a perform a function which accept a value from the user or which accept the value from where it is getting called, then it's very important that you make a parameterized constructor. It doesn't mean that you can only parameterize only a single value over there. Okay, you can even pass all three together like this, and like this you can define as well int num num2 int num3, like this. So whatever the values you are passing over here, it should match the count as well, otherwise you will get an error, because the parameters pass should have something, uh, that particular parameterized block where the method is being created. So a represent num, b represent num2, c represent num3. Okay, so if I pass it like c num3, the value will be false, means fail. You getting? So that's how we create a class, that's how we create an object like this, that's how we create the variables, and that's how we create the methods. A public static void main is itself a method. Okay, so these are the methods which we can create. You're getting the point? Now there is a very important topic now which I want to cover up. Okay, now let's talk more about constructors. What is a constructor? Have you ever heard about it? Like, what is a constructor? Okay, so let me go directly to this again to that particular slide where we were talking about classes and objects. Okay, let me change it. Just give me a second. Yeah, so constructor. Constructor is a special method that is used to initialize the newly created object, which means that all the setting activities like to assigning the variables to initializing the object, everything is done under the constructor. So constructor means that initializing or allocating the memory space, that you construct something. In the same way there is a destructor in Java, but for destructor you don't have to worry about it because Java automatically handle its own destructors. You don't have to create it. Okay, but for constructors Java give you a privilege, either you leave it, you don't create any constructor, so by default it will create a constructor. In my just recently I created a demo class in which I created new demo, right? Have you ever thought how new demo work? I have not created a constructor. Usually constructor initialize the newly created object, right? Initialize the block at the backend. But if I have not created a constructor, then how new keyword will work over there? So there's a default constructor which is not visible to all of us. Okay, because whenever we create a main method, we create an object, but we are not creating any constructor. So Java creates its own default constructor during the runtime to initialize those objects. Okay, but if you are creating any parameterized constructors, or if you are already creating any default constructor on your own for with a specific operation or with a specific print statements or anything, then Java don't create its default constructor on its own. You are already creating for it. Okay, so it's the same name of a class. Your constructor is a kind of a method only, but with the same name of a class and with no return type. Okay, so that's a basic rule for creating a constructor. So in the point number 5, it is not mandatory for coder to write a constructor for a class because Java can also have its default constructor. It can be used to initialize the object to required or default values at the time of the object creation. Okay. So once in the third point, you can see once defined, the constructor is automatically called immediately after the object is created before the new operator completes. So that's how it works. So default constructor means that it's by default created by the Java and it's the same name without any parameters. Okay. Same name as a class, but it should not return a value or not even accept a value. That's the default constructor. I will showcase you how to create a constructors as well. So in this example, just see there's a class box. So over here we have the different variables, class variables, which are width, height, and depth. Now what we are doing is we are creating a box. Box is the same name as a class name, so it's a constructor. It's not a method. Whereas there is a double volume. Double volume is a method because it's performing something. Okay, let's actually do it. Okay, let's actually do it in the Eclipse. Let's jump to Eclipse now. So suppose I have this. Okay, and let me create a constructor. Okay, so constructor, how we can create a constructor? We just learned, right? We just need to use the class name. That's it. This is the default constructor which we created. Now, if I say sys out default constructor being called. Okay, so it's a default constructor. Let me, or else, let me show you one more thing without creating a reference variable. So will it work? Because I've not created like demo space d is equal to new demo. I've just created new demo. Will it work? Yes, it will work because as I told you, this is the object creation activity, not demo d. Demo d is a reference variable which is iterate or pointing out to that particular memory block. Okay, so if I run it, okay, hold on, what happened? Okay, sorry, my bad. I just missed this part. Really sorry, my bad. See, default constructor being called. So what happened? Uh, I just created a default constructor on my own. I was not depending on Java right now to create its own constructor because I need to present you guys that by using new demo you can create or you can call the default constructor on its own. Now what if I have some exercise to do because I need to set some values. I need to accept three values from user like this, and then I need to perform some actions. Okay, so I need to perform like int a, int b, int c, and I have some instance variables as well with me. Okay, so suppose my instance variable is int length, comma breadth, comma width. Okay, like this. Okay, so my length is equal to a, breadth is equal to b, and width equal to c. Okay, now if I need to call this construct, I will pass down like 2 comma 3 comma 4. Okay, so technically is it will not call the now it won't be calling the default constructor because I have parameterized the values. It will be directly calling this parameterized constructor. Okay, now you won't get any print statement over here, or let me write down one print statement inside it so that you can see like yes, we the operations has been performed. Parameterized constructor. Let me run it. See, parameterized constructor being called, which means now default constructor is not called because I have specified a values inside that's new. Okay, so now if I create any method, uh, public void calculate, okay, which will print your length into breadth into width. Okay, and let me define the reference variable now. This d dot calculate. So now if I execute this, what will happen? So technically it will go and to assign the values to length, breadth, and width. Call this system.out.println, and then after that it will print the multiplication of your 2 into 3 into 4. Okay, so let me call it. See, 24. We are getting the answer. Parameterized constructor being called, and answer is 24. So this is my length into breadth into width by using the parameterized constructors. Okay. Now you're getting your point. Like how we can have multiple constructors at the same time. You can have any n number of constructors as per your requirement. So this is also known as constructor overloading. Mark my term. This is also a very important term in your interviews. Constructor overloading. This is one of the principle of your OOPs. Under the polymorphism, we have two different categories. One is overloading. One is overriding. Overloading is also known as a compile time polymorphism. Overriding is known as the runtime polymorphism. Okay. So this is also a tip for you. Like whenever you're going for any interview related to Java, you need to know these terms. Okay. So now you got the clarity about constructor overloading. Constructor overloading. Okay. And we can only overload our constructors. Okay. Now, okay. Now, if we have even started up the terms called overloading, overriding, let's do method overloading. Okay. Let's create a new class. Let me create a calculator. Okay. We have a method calculator in which let me quickly create an object of a calculator. Okay. Okay. So let me now I'm going to teach you about the method overloading. Okay. This is a compile time polymorphism. So guys, we are going to learn about method overloading. In the previous just before 2 minutes, we learned constructor overloading. Now we'll go to method overloading. Okay. So for the method, for the suppose what different kinds of methods we can imagine calculator, like public void add. Okay. And addition can be of n number of characters. We can either we can give the privilege of a user to enter 3 characters, enter 4 characters, enter 5 integers, right? So let me add int a comma int b. Okay, that's one method for add. Let have another method for add where we will be adding int c, where we'll be adding int c comma int d. Okay, so 2 characters, 2 integers, 3 integers, 4 integers. Okay. Now what it will do is will do a plus b. In the same manner it will, and this will do is a plus c, a plus b plus c. This will do a plus b plus c plus t. Okay, so this is a method overloading. So if I need to call add, and suppose I have 4 values to give, 3 comma 4 comma 2 comma 10, and then again I have to call this same. Okay, but with the different values. Now if I call it, what will happen is it won't get confused. My object won't get confused because I have specified that this add method, which whatever the add method is having, kind of which is able to accept the 4 integers at a time, it will only call that add method. See, 19, 9, and 7. So taking you 3 plus 4, 7, 3 plus 4, 7 plus 2, 9, and again 7, 9 plus 10, 19. So this is known as method overloading. Okay. In the method overloading, let me do one thing. Let me showcase you one more thing. In method overloading, we can't have different types. We need to have like this, void, void. Okay. But what if we do like this? Let us try one more thing. Int and int. Okay. And it will add a return statement. Let me add a return statement over here. Add a return statement over here. Add a return statement over here as well. Okay. So return me a plus b. Return me a plus b plus c. And here, let me a plus b plus c plus d. Okay. So you can play around with it. You can play around anytime, like whatever you wish. And what if this is out this, because it's already returning a value, so it will be able to print it. Okay. Let me copy this one and paste it over here as well. Paste it over here as well. And this close with the right bracket. Now if I print, it will print 2 times. See, 199977. Because what it's doing is it's calling the method c dot add. It's going over here. It's printing the value and it's returning the value. And there is again a system dot out of println which is printing it twice. So this overloading method came like this. Okay. So technically your method name should be same. Okay. Your return type and your parameterization can be different. But in a same class, overloading, guys, overloading only works in the same class. You need to know overloading works in a same class. So now what if, let me make it as a non-public class. I hope my screen is visible. It's not that blurry for you. Okay. Now let me tweak it a little bit. Now let me teach you. Now we know what is overloading. Now let us go with overriding. Okay. Let us no overriding. Now I will say, sorry, my bad. Class, I'll say child. Okay. Now my child class extends my calculator. Okay. Now guys, this is a very, very important topic, which again I'm covering up inside the override, which is inheritance. So what is inheritance? Can anybody tell me what exactly is inheritance? Inheritance is like whenever, or in a very simpler way, okay, uh, your parents must be having some properties, some genetic properties or some genetic habits, okay, which you have adapted automatically, right? In the same way, inheritance means adapting some of the properties or adapting some of the attributes or methods from its parent class. So technically, this class is my child class, which is adapting from something from its parent. Okay. So extend means that I am extending their property in my own. From where I am extending? From my parent. Okay. And Java support only single inheritance. You can't have like this, comma, any other class name or demo like this. You can't have like this because Java don't support it. Okay. In inheritance, if I say, then class child extends calculator. That is a perfect example. Okay. And then you can have, suppose I create one more class, grandchild extends child. Now I can't write like this as it's it's not correct because Java don't support it. Okay, so Java don't support that. So now this is a multi-level inheritance, which means my calculator, there was a calculator class which was a base class. Then I created a child class which extend the property from calculator. Now I created a grandchild class which extend the property of child class. So technically, if I say in the mathematical terms, A is equal to B is equal to C, which means A is equal to C. So which means that grandchild also have the properties of calculator. Okay. So that's a multi-level inheritance which you can have in Java. Okay. So now for like suppose I was teaching overriding. Yeah. So for overriding, what you need to do is you need to have similar kind of approach over here. Similar kind of method over here, which I have in my base class. Okay. So let me add a return statement or let me add like this. Okay. Plus B. Okay. Now let me remove it. I don't want to confuse you guys a little bit more. Child C is equal to new child. Okay. Now C dot add. Child C is equal to new child. That is correct. Then I have specified everything correct. Yes. So now technically what I need to do is or else I can have it like if I do like this is basically a casting, okay, which I will teach later on. And what we need to do over here is we need to basically call the add method. Okay, I need to showcase you how it overriding works. Okay, okay. So what we can do is we just need to tweak a little bit because it will throw an error later on. Let me create my this because I've named this file particular as calculator. So this will be my child, which will be extending the parent. So let me create a parent first class parent. Okay, which will have this method again, the same method as again. Put it over here. Okay, and then let me extend it. Extends parent. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to have the same method again over here. Public. Let me have this public static void main and string. Okay, and let me create a object of this. So let me tweak it a little bit. Uh, in base class, sorry, in your child class, and on the top, let me write it in parent class. Okay, so that we know which particular method is working, and let me store this value into an integer. Okay, let later on we print it as now. Okay, so what do you think? Which add method will work? Which add method will work and print me the this will return this 12 value? Any idea? So now calculator is extending the parent. So parent is also having the add method over here. You can see parent is also having the add method. But I also have the similar kind of method with the same return type, with the same parameterization. Everything is same. That's why it's known as overriding method. Or you can write down like this as well. Overriding annotation. So this, if I hit on that, this will give me in child class 12. Okay. So now what if I need to call my above uh, this particular add method again? What if I need to call that one too? Then what we can do is we can have like this parent c is equal to new child, and then also we can create a parent like this, and then it will give me in parent class 12 method. Now this, if I need to do like this I have to create a different objects of different classes at a time. But now there is one more way to go ahead with it. Okay, in this method, if I write super keyword, okay, what if I write like this super this, and again I pass down 3 comma 6, 3 comma 5, or like this, sorry, super dot add method 4 comma 9. Okay, suppose I've the super method, what exactly super method do is it actually is a keyword which help us to call the parent class overridden method. Okay, the method which we are overriding from the parent class, it actually call it first and then perform the action. So if I hit this, see, in parent class, in child class 12. So technically this was printing only one statement which was having parent dot class. It was returning the value, but I was not printing anything. Okay, if I would have saved it like this int num like this, and then print it like this, then the output will be a little bit different. See, in parent the value is 13, in child class the value is 12. So now you know how overriding is working. For concept of overriding, you must have the same. So what if I change like this? See, this is giving me an error because for overriding, your method should be having the same. Your return type is incompatible with the parent. Okay, your return type is incompatible with the parent because I'm using an overridden method, but its return type is different. So I need to have the same return type. And what if I have this? Then again, same. I will get an error that your technically you need to have a kind of a either remove the overridden annotation, or you need to have the same parameterized parameters, total number of parameters which are specified in the parent class. So like this. Okay, so that was the concept of method overriding, overloading. So what we actually learned in this whole lecture. Okay, what we actually came up with the different topics, what we actually learned. We started up with what is actually OOPS, how many principles we have in the OOPS, what is class, what is object, and what is how we create a method, how we create the constructors, what is a constructor overloading, what is method overloading, what is method overriding. We also learned about inheritance, the multi-level inheritance, and the single level inheritance. So we covered a lot about in this OOPS concept. Okay. Now there are other topics as well in OOPS which we are known as encapsulation, abstractions. Okay. There are two topics which is known as encapsulation and abstraction. We cover up that too. Okay, let's now talk about encapsulation and abstraction. Both are interlinked, I will say, and these are not that much different. One is basically data binding, or I will say encapsulating the data in a very simplified form. I will say the best example is a capsule. You you usually take a capsule whenever you are having any fever or any medications, right? You take a capsule. What exactly is a capsule? It's having some of the medicines inside it, which is binded to it. Okay, you don't open it and you don't have to take the medicine like that because you know that there's a medicine inside it. So that's a binding of that particular data inside that capsule. In the same way, class act as an encapsulation, which actually bind your variables, your method together. Okay, and abstraction means data hiding by using a specific access modifiers. You can use protected and private for the data hiding. You don't want that particular data or that particular class to be exposed to the other users or other objects where they can access easily. Bind it or restrict it using the access modifiers. You can restrict it using the private. Even you can restrict your variables using the private modifier. Okay. So what you need to do is encapsulate everything into a class, and then you need to data hide it, whatever you want. So that's encapsulation and abstraction. I have very simple example for you over here. Okay. So you can see my screen. There's a test encapsulation example. Okay. So which I have already created for this one, where I have two classes. One is encapsulate and one is test encapsulation. Okay. So test encapsulation is basically creating an object of encapsulate where I am calling or calling a few methods which are set name, set age, and set roll number. Okay. And then I'm also printing up by using the same methods like get name, get age, and get roll number. Okay. But there is a twist. Twist is like all these methods are public because these are accessible, but the variables which are storing these values are private, which means that if I need to do like this, dot techify age, I'm not getting it anything. There's no value because I have restricted it. Nobody can access it directly. You want to access these the data what is residing in it. You go ahead and do it via method, right? You go ahead and do it via method via your getter and setter methods. Don't directly access it. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm setting an age. So these are my set methods: set age, set name, and set roll number, which is actually setting all the values which I'm providing over here as a parameterized methods into these private variables. So this is data hiding. Okay, abstraction. And then what I am doing is I am later on calling up my getter methods, which is get name, get age, and get roll number. So what exactly they are returning? They are returning those values which are storing inside this. Okay. So directly you can't access it. You have to go through via these methods. So I have passed on the value as Sumit 31 and 10, and the same values I am going to extract it. Okay. See, I'm able to access it. But what if I do it like object.techify like this, which I have already done? This is not accessible. The error is that field encapsulation.techify name is not visible. Why it is not visible? Because I have already hidden it using a private access modifier. Okay, that's the use of access modifier. So you can modify it, you can tweak it, you can want to put a hold on your particular data which should not be visible to any other user or any other who is accessing your software. So that's how you use these private, protected, and public or default. Okay, do read about this. Do have a kind of a homework from my side that do read about and come up with your questions. I would love to answer all your questions in the next session. And in the next sessions, we'll be talking more about exception handling. Okay, that's going to be a great session. Not this much long, but yes, it's going to be a great session. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for staying up so long and keep learning, keep automating. Thank you once again. Signing off.